What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy JB, host of the Behind the Bench Podcast Network and channel, giving a shout out to the rest of the crew. Shy, Kelvin, Jermaine, KB Film Room, and Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right, that's right. Everyone who's tuning in, thank you for supporting Behind the Bench. Subscribe to the channel. Help make this show the best that it can be. NBA. The new season is underway. 5 games in. And man, I tell you, man. God take it, man. And I'm not making this video to cast jokes, man. I'm gonna cast jokes aside, man. But when it comes to one Anthony Davis, man, AD, as he is famously known as, over these past 7 years, man, going to this 8th year, I've never seen any other player who wound up becoming teammates of you know who. The Hurricane, who has been devalued as much as one Anthony Davis, man. This is a guy who won a national championship, University of Kentucky, with John Calipari as the head coach. I believe they finished with a record of like 39-2. And he was selected with #1 pick, man, of the, I believe that was the 2012 NBA draft, man. And I just remember after the 2018 season, and I know this is 7-8 years ago, I realize that, but Anthony Davis was coming off a tremendous postseason, man, where he was averaging like darn near 34, 35 points a game, rebounding averages of like 15, 16 a game. The guy was, he was on the verge of becoming potentially the best player in the NBA, at least for a couple of years, And I remember they upset when he was playing for his franchise, the New Orleans Pelicans. They upset the Portland Trailblazers in the first round, swept, a matter of fact. And they lost to the defending champion Golden State Warriors in 5 games, but it was a tough 5 games. And it wasn't really until that game 5 where Golden State, won convincingly. But AD was giving them the business, man. They didn't have an answer for him, you know what I'm saying? And this was the same year where the Sacramento Kings traded Boogie Cousins to New Orleans. I believe that was for Buddy Hield. That was the primary player in that trade from New Orleans. And they formed what many people dub the new Twin Towers, the new Akeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson. And I was very excited for the Pelicans because I was always a huge fan of Anthony Davis. And see, the thing is, man, like, you can have a squad. Everybody here knows who my squad is, right? But you can still, man, really be fans of other players, man, and what they bring to the table. And going into that 2018-2019 season, and this is when Julius Randle signed a 2-year deal after being let go by my squad. Well, going into that season, Anthony Davis was the prohibited favorite to win that upcoming season's MVP. And that potentially he and Julius Randle could form the best front court duo in the NBA because Julius Randle started to emerge and was averaging 20 points and 10 rebounds in his own right. And they started the season off 4-0. I remember like it was yesterday. And then all of a sudden, man, you start seeing this hesitance in AD's play. And I couldn't really understand. I'm like, wait a minute, man. This guy, man, he ain't playing like, you peep things, right? And then around December of that season, he requested a trade out the box. I said, oh, okay, here we go. It's finna start. It's finna start. And the season of two franchises went total kaput. My squad and the Pelicans. And Anthony Davis requested a trade to my squad. And I tell you what, man, I know in a million years, he never thought his career would transpire the way it has over time. Because this guy right here, man, he should have been a league MVP. I'm not necessarily saying what year, but he was my pick to win MVP going into that 18-19 year. And now you fast forward to 2025, Anthony Davis is now 32 years old. And once again, he's injured. And the main drawback of Anthony Davis' career, even before he got traded to my squad, he was prone to injury. Not necessarily injury prone, he was prone to injury. And there's a difference. There's a difference. And I know it may sound silly, but he's prone to injury. And because of the fact that he's 32 now, he's never going to win any type of single season award, especially on the defensive end, because now you have Victor Wembanyama, who's starting to emerge in a big way. You know, he blocking everything in sight when someone drives to the basket on him, and he's starting to score the points, and he's getting the rebounds, and he's taking less 3-point shots. But see, when these talking heads trash the past players, particularly the players of Michael Jordan's era, well, it's funny how Victor Wembanyama improved over the offseason, changed his game after working out with one Akeem Olajuwon, who's considered historically one of the top 10 greatest players that ever played this game. I guarantee you, Akeem Olajuwon advised Wembanyama to stop taking so many threes and to start working on his footwork and his post game. I guarantee you. So when they trash them past players, man, well, if they weren't any good, Victor Wembanyama ain't reaching out to Akeem Olajuwon. That's how you know that's all hocus pocus. But Anthony Davis, man, he suffers another injury last night as the Dallas Mavericks faced the, I forget who they played. Was it the Indiana Pacers, I believe? It was the Indiana Pacers. And he was grabbing the upper arch of his, was that his left foot, I believe? Was that his left foot? And see, I remember when they was playing in the bubble, this was game 5 of the finals in the bubble. I call it the bubble finals. That's what it was. And about, was it midway through the first quarter or toward the end of the first quarter, he grabbed the back of his, I think that was his right foot. And I remember the announcers was like, the play-by-play announcers were like, oh man, like he grabbing his calf. I said, no, that man grabbing his Achilles. That man got hurt in the bubble and it carried over to the next year. Because remember, after the bubble season, they had like a 2-week off season. You know what I'm saying? They, draft, trades, free agency, then training camp by like 2 days, and then you had about 2 preseason games. And they threw all the players out there to compete in a 72-game truncated season. You know what I'm saying? And Anthony Davis entered that new season. He was injured. But he tried to gut it out, and then, trying to compensate for that injury led to other injuries that he had. I think it was like a calf strain, whatever it was, groin injuries and all that stuff. So what I'm saying is, man, there's never been a superstar. And I was trying to think, man, I was like, well, I know Kevin Love, man, he was essentially turned into a spot-up shooter when he was averaging 26 and 15 in Minnesota. But I cannot sit here and say as talented as Kevin Love was, I believe he was as high as a top 7 player in the league by the time he was traded to Cleveland, or even a Dwayne Wade or Chris Bosh. Anthony Davis was seen as someone who can be viewed as, well, the best quote unquote big man in the game, and eventually the best player in the NBA, because he was always seen, what they say about him, generational talent. Me personally, I know this sounds totally foreign and totally off base and off kilter in of the minority opinion, and I get all that. Anthony Davis should have stayed in New Orleans, man. See, the thing is, man, when you a franchise player, like when you historically, when you think Chicago Bulls, who you think of? Right off the bat, you think of Michael Jordan, and then Scottie Pippen. But Jordan was the building blocks of that franchise when they drafted him. And then later on, Derrick Rose, you identified Derrick Rose with the Bulls. When you think of someone like the Minnesota Timberwolves, you think of Kevin Garnett, Anthony Edwards. When you think of Golden State Warriors, you think of Steph Curry right off the bat. When you think of San Antonio Spurs, you think of Tim Duncan, David Robinson, franchise player. Dallas Mavericks, you thinking of Dirk Nowitzki, and it used to be a Luka Doncic. And then even, back when the franchise started, you thought of Mark Aguirre. He was their first superstar when Dallas Mavericks started off in the NBA in the early 80s. That's very important when you think, of course, when you think of the Lakers, of recent memory, you're thinking of Kobe, the late, great Kobe Bean Bryant. And all the other, the Magic Johnson of the world, Jerry West of the world, people like that. When you think of the Atlanta Hawks, Dominique Wilkins, to this day, Bob Pettit, Philadelphia 76ers, you thinking even though he's been off injured, you think of Joel Embiid. You think of Joel Embiid over the past 10 years. Then you think of Dr. J, Julius Erving. You think of Allen Iverson. When you think of Boston Celtics right now, you think of Jason Tatum, for the most part. Or, of course, Larry Bird, Paul Pierce, and Bill Russell, Detroit Pistons, you thinking Isaiah Thomas right off the bat. Zeke. And at one time, Oklahoma City Thunder, KD. But when you are kind of coerced to embrace that player empowerment, man, you're relinquishing a lot, man. You're relinquishing stature. You see what I'm saying? And if AD, because it wasn't like New Orleans wasn't a good team. They went to the second round of the playoffs in 2018. So it was a lot of positive view about their future, And I can just imagine, man, maybe he would have led them to a finals at some point. Even if it's just like, let's say, even 2 finals appearances in a small market team. Hey, man, hey. Oh, yeah, when you think of Denver, who you think of? You think of Nikola Jokic. Automatic, right off the bat. So I'm saying, man, AD, of all of the superstar franchise players who have wound up being teammates with who, nobody's been devalued more than Anthony Davis, dog. And it's almost like he's lost in the wind now, man. And who knows this injury, man? I don't know how severe it is. But, man, I'm telling you, man, it's almost like, and I know this may sound crazy, it's almost all the 5.5 years he wore that jersey for my squad. It's almost like he never played for it, man. Because at the end of the day, you still thinking the Kobe's. You still thinking the Magics. Heck, you still, even Derek Fisher's. That's how important and prestigious it is to represent a franchise. At least like I said, every superstar has not played their whole career for one team. But man, to be in position to do that, oh man, that's what the NBA was built on. Reggie Miller never won a championship in his career. He did compete in the finals in 2000. That man played his whole career for the Indiana Pacers, man. And he had an opportunity to go to Boston Celtics, and play. I think that was with when Boston in the early 2000s, when they went to the conference finals couple like in 2002, whatnot, 2003, somewhere around there. This before this was like a young Paul Pierce when they had uh, 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 Antoine Walker and McCarty from both of them players were from University of Kentucky, and then Paul Pierce from University of Kansas. But Reggie Miller had a chance to go there, man, but he said, you know what, I wouldn't trade my years with Indiana for nothing. So therefore, man, like I said, Reggie Miller is an esteemed figure in that city, in Indianapolis, man. And now I don't know if he has a statue or not. I don't know that, but hey, I can sit there and say 19 years representing the franchise. Hey, that'd be a worthy honor for Reggie Miller. So what I'm trying to say is, man, AD was led to believe, man, that he was gonna win multiple championships, because when he was traded to my squad, the talking was, oh man, he's gonna retire a Laker. Well, they saying the same thing about Luka Doncic, and I'm not buying it. It always looks good up front, the way it's presented to you, but when you understand the fine print and why he was brought to the team, it's a win now scenario. And AD was traded last year when he was said to retire a Laker. So I just want to do this video, man. Like I say, God dang it, man. He's never going to win an award. It's not going to happen now. Wemby in town now. And if Wemby can stay healthy, knock on wood, I try not to even focus on players getting hurt, even though they already getting hurt. And I believe a lot of the reasons why, especially when it comes to front court players, man, when it comes to big men or power forwards or whatnot, they need that conditioning, man. They need that conditioning. They want to trash the past players. Do you know I pulled up the career stats of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? He played 20 years. I think it was only 2 years where he played like only 60-some games. And I know one of them years was he broke his hand in a retaliation when he clocked Kurt Benson. I believe Kurt Benson I think it was the Milwaukee Bucks, when he was drafted from the University of Indiana, and then Kurt Benson threw a cheap shot, hit Kareem in his lower back, and then Kareem rushed up and cocked him. Broke his hand, and he wound up breaking his hand. But other than that, man, Kareem giving you damn near, to be a big man, he was giving you on average, man, like 78. I think his first 3-4 years, he was getting you 82 games. Reggie Miller, 80 games average. Karl Malone was giving you 80 games. John Stockton, majority of his career, he was giving you 82 games. So I'm saying, I think with the league not understanding, man, you can't shortcut the process of preparing for a season. And I believe, like Patrick Ewing had them bad knees, man. He wore them the knee pads like they were like 2 feet in height. But he on average, man, when he really got going, he was giving you close to like 78 games a year, 80 games a year. So I think a lot of the reason why a player like AD gets hurt, man, is because you got to prepare. And then when you're playing out of position too, because he's really a power forward, So them years when he was playing for my squad, he was mainly asked to play the center spot. When you playing out of position, I believe that's why a lot of these injuries are taking place. When they say positionless basketball, that means your playing style, your body type often dictate your height, often dictate what position you're gonna play for the most part in the grand scheme of things. And I believe, AD was asked to play a position where he really shouldn't have been playing. And I just think it's an accumulation of stuff, man, that has led to, what we unfortunately witnessed yesterday. But for all practical purposes, man, Anthony Davis should have stayed in New Orleans, dog. Because I believe during his prime years, he could have led him to at least one finals. You see what I'm saying? At least one. That'd have been huge, man, for a team like New Orleans. small market team that really hasn't. I mean, in recent years they went to the playoffs a couple years in a row, mainly because my guy Brandon Ingram led them there, but he gone now, and they just. But when you lose your franchise player, man, you lose the soul of your team. You see what I'm saying? So I just want to drop this nugget real quick, man. Anthony Davis, uh, I think if he stays in New Orleans, he wins the league MVP, Defensive Player of the Year award, could arguably be seen at some point as the best player in the league, potentially, even if it's only for 2 years, right? And had the potential with the team he was building around him to lead them to a final. That'd have been exciting. That'd have been great for the league. Wow, like New Orleans Pelicans in the finals, led by AD. But now, man, he's just another player now, man. He was used and abused, though. He's used and abused, and now he's left out to dry. But when you get into that business with the Hurricane, man, and a lot of guys that's been playing with the Hurricane as of late, they not even in the league no more. They got to play overseas. And I'm gonna do a video about that soon. But hopefully AD, hopefully it's nothing serious, man. He can get back out there, man. But he should have stayed in New Orleans. And I know that may sound whack, but at the end, considering, he played 5.5 years for my squad, but at the end of the day, in all actuality, the man was more associated with his own squad than with my squad playing with the Hurricane. But I just want to drop that nugget. Please leave your comments and thoughts. And until next time, this is your boy JB for BTB, Behind the Bench.